Welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I am Susan Campbell. We are kicking off a new year. We want to jump right in. So I'm joined right now by Stewart Willis, President of Asset Preservation, Tax, and Wealth. Thank you so much for being with us. I think this is a time when a lot of people are going, I got to reset. I got to think about the finances. I've got to think about the new year. I don't personally love the idea of resolutions, but I do know a lot of people set financial resolutions. So we want to talk all about it. What do people do?
Well, you know what? Sometimes it is time to shake the Etch-a-Sketch and just start over, right? New Year's resolutions, even though I think it's bad because the implication is you forgot doing stuff, towards the end of last year. But I think what it does give you a time to reset and say, okay, well, where am I missing? What do I need to do? And how do we move forward with our own financial plan that makes sense for us? What I would say the biggest mistake is for people, especially young people that are at the beginning of their careers, is that they're being penny wise and pound foolish. And now let me also start here. They don't think about taxes, right? They think about saving money today, not saving money 20, 30, 40 years from now. So one of the biggest mistakes, people that have a young person with a young family, oftentimes, people that have multiple kids, they get all of these additional deductions because of the dependents, but they're putting money into a 401k plan to be tax deferred. Oftentimes at lower incomes, people aren't paying income tax at all because of all the deductions and so forth, but they're deferring taxes when they're already tax-free. It may be time to consider doing a Roth 401k at your employer, which means you don't get a tax deduction now, but it grows for the next 20, 40, 60 years tax-free for the rest of your life. And when you pass away, it passes to your kids completely tax-free as well. It's something to consider.
I think that's one of those things that people think about a little bit of like, oh, how much will this impact my paycheck, right?
No question.
How do you determine how much it's going to impact a paycheck? If you are, say, contributing 10% to a traditional right now and are saying, well, maybe 10% to the Roth instead makes more sense.
Well, here's the thing. The nice thing is it's just one paycheck at a time. So oftentimes, depending on your employer's plan, you can change it, between pay periods as well. So you may want to say, if you're at a 10% contribution using your number here, let's, instead of 401k, let's turn off the 401k pre-tax, do 10% on your Roth. How does it feel? Can you handle that? Well, any additional feeling you feel, any reduction in paycheck is because you're paying taxes on the money you're contributing. But let me tell you, at the end of the day, when you're retired, people think that their income will be lower in retirement when that's not always the case. If you've done your job properly and saved properly for retirement, your income may be the same. But more importantly, when you retire and start taking things like Social Security, your Social Security becomes taxable when you start taking money out of your IRAs and 401ks. But with a Roth, it's completely invisible to Social Security tax, which is up to 85% of your Social Security can be taxable. So it's really important to have a financial plan, not just for today, but for the long haul.
Well, and we have no idea what happens to tax law when we hit retirement 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, right?
Well, I think most people don't even know that Social Security is taxable, right? Or how it becomes taxable. So the thresholds they set for taxation on Social Security were set back in 1983, and they've never been adjusted for inflation. So it started off as a tax on the wealthy, but by not adjusting for inflation, it's now becoming essentially a tax on the poor as well. So putting away money pre-tax in your 401k is one of the worst things you can do right now at the lower income stages. Listen, wealthy people want to shove as much money as they can into a Roth, right? That should be a key to you to say, well, what is this Roth thing about? Why don't I do it now? People that are younger, that make less money, benefit even more because you may be putting money away tax deferred when you're tax-free right now.
Such an interesting way to look at it. You're making us do a little math.
Yeah.
But it's good math. It's important math. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the changes that are happening also in 2026. Every year, January rolls around and we start hearing tax time here. We got to get ready. What are some of the changes that are coming up this year that we just need to know about?
Well, when it comes to tax, there were a lot of changes specifically that occurred last year, mid-year, with the big, beautiful bill. There's the additional senior deduction, $6,000 per person, up to $75,000 of income. Then it becomes phased out per person. So a lot of people that are doing things like tax planning on their own using tools like Roth conversions may not know that they're getting rid of some of their benefit that we just got from this big, beautiful bill. So you really want to make sure that the moves that you're making are you understand the real impact of what it's going to do to your tax situation. Remember, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep at the end of the day. And tax efficiency is most people's biggest mistake.
Well, I think there are so many people who say, I don't have that much money. I don't have that many assets. I'm just going to do it myself, right? I mean, that it feels like an easy trap to fall into when you're trying to navigate what you don't think is maybe as complicated as it is.
Well, I think there's a lot of do-it-yourselfers, or people are relying on artificial intelligence right now for their answers. And let me just tell you, I prepared for one of our television shows here on the channel, and I remember trying to create a script using artificial intelligence based on the big, beautiful bill. It was completely wrong. The facts were wrong. The details are wrong. Do not rely on artificial intelligence yet for your financial plan. It is not something I would bet your future on. Not yet.
You bring up a great point about how it's just artificial intelligence is creeping into everything. How does that change your industry?
It's interesting because, listen, I mean, we all use Google to search things. Now people are relying more on ChatGPT, Grok, all of these other AI models. I think people want to be informed, but sometimes you have to remember Google results, AI results are catered to you specifically. People don't realize that the answers they get are different than what somebody else gets based on their own algorithm and search histories and so forth. So be very, very wary of what you're getting now. It's not refined enough yet. And people also see what they want to see. They see the answers they want to see that lead them to the answer they've already figured out. Now, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, listen, I applaud you for being invested in, or trying to get invested and being involved in your retirement. That's step number one. But there comes a point, once you've accumulated some money, that you should always get a second opinion. Make sure you're on the right track. Make sure you reach out to a fiduciary advisor that has your best interest at heart, that can help you along the right way. And most people don't. They think, hey, I don't have enough. I don't make enough. What we do with our clients is we make sure their kids are involved now, right? We're seeing one of the biggest transfers of wealth with, the baby boomers passing away now. They're now starting to pass away and transferring wealth to the kids. But people who inherit money, they don't know how to manage it because they've never earned it. People who inherit money, it's like winning the lottery. They tend to be broke a couple of years down the road, and there's no signs of inheritance whatsoever. So it's better to make sure the kids learn at a young age, which is why in elementary school, in junior high and high school, they should have economics courses that also talk about finance and investing in the power of compounding. I think it's one of the things kids just don't understand. My son, for example, he's an economics major at UCLA. It's so funny because his sophomore year, he came to me and said, "Dad, what's a dividend?" He's like, "You mean they pay you to own a stock?" And that just shocked me because I'm a financial advisor. Yeah. I didn't have the wherewithal to teach my kids that, thinking that school did it for them. This is an economics major and didn't know what a dividend was. That's scary to me.
And
right?
Your mind is blown at that point. You're like, okay, sit down.
Brilliant kid didn't know the basic fundamentals of how a stock pays to the investors. That that conversation we had really made me rethink things like, hey, I need to make sure these kids understand the impact of investing, the power of compounding, and why it's important to start now as early as possible.
So true. I was actually just talking about just money. I love talking about money with my dad. He and I have such great conversations about it. And he was telling me over Christmas, he was like, I always tried to get you interested in it. I had your mutual fund. I wanted you to start picking things that were in that mutual fund so you'd be excited about it. And I was like, I don't even remember that. I feel like I would have been excited about it. He's like, no, nothing. He was like, I mean, this is back in the day when stocks were printed in the newspaper, sure, and he would leave it out and highlight things. And he was like, I couldn't get you involved with it. And now he's trying already with my 7-year-old to get him excited. And it's so cool to see little bits and pieces of my 7-year-old taking, a little ownership over what's in the piggy bank so far.
And I love it. In the era you talked about, looking at stock values in the newspaper every day. Now, that investor that's used to waiting a whole day to see what happened to the stock, the world has changed. Now people are looking at their phones minute by minute and making goofy decisions because a stock moves intraday within the day. One of the biggest mistakes people are making, they're looking too often. They're looking 5 times, 10 times, 20 times a day like a video game. It's a dopamine addiction, to be honest. Listen, I'm on level like 3,000 on Candy Crush, so I can't say a word, right? But these cell phones are killing investor performance because they're overreacting to news. They're trying to get in front of it. Trading is free now on most platforms. So we're getting the day trader individual investor that's making terrible long-term decisions.
And most of us are so far away from being an expert at this that we have no prayer.
Well, look, it's what I do for a living, but oftentimes what scares me is when a client knows where the stock market is closer than I do. Meaning I'll have a client come in and say, hey, the market's up 1.5% today. I'll be, okay. Like today's value is so irrelevant to the outcome of your retirement. We use money managers, third-party asset managers that all see the world differently. Because look, let's say you're investing your own money and you believe the stock market's going up, so you put all your money into some aggressive position going upwards. What if you're wrong? You're going to bet your whole life savings that your opinion of the market is correct? Same thing with me. Listen, if you're dealing with a financial advisor that's picking the stocks for you, that's also risky, which is why we use these third-party asset managers to diversify the points of view so that if one of them gets it wrong, it doesn't sink your whole ship. And I think that's the biggest mistake with most financial advisors also today is that they're doing it themselves because it doesn't cost them anything to do it themselves. They pick cookie cutter portfolios, and that puts you at risk as well. If you're a young investor, listen, we don't have to worry about diversification of perspectives. What you should be doing is put your money into the indexes, S&P 500, Dow Jones, NASDAQ, long-term investments, because risk doesn't matter. You've got 30 years, 40 years to go, push it all in. But as you start getting closer to retirement, that's when you started needing to diversify. And I don't mean just diversify your investments, diversify your perspectives. Have more than one point of view. And gosh darn it, make sure you have someone you can rely on for a second opinion. Whoever that is, someone you like, first of all.
Well, so, you bring up such a good point about how to choose somebody. Like, how do you actually choose who that person is, who you like? Do you go and interview these people? Do you call them on the phone? How do you come up with the right person for you?
So I have a very, very simple rule in life, okay? I don't do business with people I don't like, and you should not either. Right? It's that simple. I say it all the time. When I'm on TV or if I'm on the radio, I say it all the time. If you don't like me on TV or the radio, you're not going to like me in person. Don't call, right? Because trust your sense about people because relationships matter. Your ability to communicate matters, right? If something's bothering you, you can't let it just boil up into a problem. You need to be able to reach your client. All of my clients have my personal cell phone number so they can reach out the minute something bothers them. And they know if I'm on vacation, I remember I was skiing in Park City. I've never skied before, and I'm terrible, by the way, but just did that for the first time ever.
That's an aggressive place to start.
Oh, gosh. Let me tell you, at 52 years old, it's a problem. But I'm getting text messages on the ski lift, and I'm answering it, and I had to say I had an instructor with me because I'm a horrendous skier. My kids are amazing. I'm terrible. But I'm answering text messages from my clients. And
oh, my goodness.
You need to have the comfort level with your advisor to know that you can reach them and they can reach you. They're not big timing you. You don't want them to be too big of a deal for you. And hey, you know what? I know he's busy. It's going to take a week or two to talk to him. No, immediate response because it calms the nerves when you can reach somebody.
What about the different certifications? Certified financial planner versus financial advisor. What does that matter?
It's interesting because when I hire financial advisors, certifications like the CFP is probably the most prestigious designation in our industry when you're hiring somebody. So if I'm hiring a young financial advisor, I think the CFP really shows that they tried to learn, right? That they went through the additional schooling. It's what I think 6 40-hour courses. I don't have the CFP designation, but it doesn't really change the way I do things anymore. I think it matters. I think it's a nice minimum standard to put. We hire a lot of CFPs because it shows that that they really care about learning their profession. We have a couple advisors with enrolled agent designations as well, which is a tax certification. I mean, it's not quite the CPA designation, but it's on its way to CPA. So I think designations matter, but I think more than anything, look at their schooling, look at their competence. Are you comfortable with them? If you feel uncomfortable, get up and leave. Go find somebody you like, somebody that you can have a conversation with as well. But the CFP is definitely something that doesn't hurt.
Sounds good. I want to throw a couple different scenarios at you, if you don't mind. I kind of thought it might be fun to get your take on the first steps for people in the new year from a couple very different life perspectives. So one example, 25-year-old, single, mountains of student loan debt. What do they do with their money? What are the first moves they need to make this year?
The first thing they should do is make a spreadsheet, okay? Create a spreadsheet with how much debt they have, what are the interest rates of the different debts. Be careful when you refinance that debt as well, okay? There's a lot of third-party companies out there refinancing it for temporarily lower rates, but then they can go higher in the future. Be careful with that. Some people have subsidized loans. You want to look at the rate first. If you have credit card debt, put that on there as well. So any assets, any debts should have the interest rate that you're paying out, so you know which one to attack first. Here's the thing. I have a partner I've dealt with for 25 years, and one thing he always says is, I get paid first. Now, what he means by that is that you can spend your whole life working, buying stuff, doing all that. But if you don't put money to the side early, you never put it away. So what's happening is you need to create a habit young to save, even if you have debt. Here's why. Let's say Armageddon happens. 2008 hits all over again, housing crisis, the world falls apart. We have another COVID or whatever. Well, if you go bankrupt, your 401ks are typically protected by ERISA. It's like the O.J. Simpson case, right? Terrible example, but he owed tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars at his death to the Goldman family, but they could never collect at the time from his pension. The pension was protected. You should learn from that, right? And I'm not saying use him as a role model. I'm saying the idea that ERISA protected 401k plans can protect you even if things fall apart. Right? If you have to go through a bankruptcy proceeding, make sure you put money away years in advance in your 401k plans that are immune from any of that sort of litigation risk in the future.
Fascinating. I like that advice. Pay yourself first. Different example. Let's jump up a couple years. 40-year-old, married, a couple kids, a little bit of credit card debt, nothing too crazy. We know the average right now of credit card debt is like $6,000 for people who have credit card debt. But they do maybe this person has some decent retirement savings, a couple $100,000, $300,000 socked away. What's their money move this year?
Yeah, their money move is to first understand their risk tolerance, to know how much, because now in your later 40s, let's say it's later 40s, well, now you're a decade, 2 decades away from retirement. We're getting closer. You don't want to be trying to time the market, right? Stop trying to be a day trader. Day trading is a fool's errand. Listen, nobody knows whether the market's going to be up or down on a given day. You can time it, but stop doing that. Be invested and stay invested. That's number one. Number two, have a plan, because now we're talking about, my gosh, my kids are going to go to college, or at least you want the ability for them to go to college if they decide to go to college, right? I mean, sentiment has changed about college. I just saw a report today. For the first time ever, more people believe that college is not worth it than believe that is worth it, right? I think trades are something people need to think about. Electricians, right, with all the data centers, They need to think about, if your kid says, hey, I want to be an electrician, honestly, I mean, we're seeing the future believes that they could be getting paid in the $300,000 range to be a full contractor electrician. Something worth, considering.
But that still costs money for the education.
You have to go to school, so you have to be able to afford to do that, right? So listen, I was in a position where I figured, you and I were talking about this off camera. I have 2 kids in college. I'm 52 years old, and now, oh my gosh, this is killing me, right? Because I didn't set up 529 plans thinking that I could finance it as I went myself. Listen, I do pretty well for myself, but it is devastating financially.
Are you enjoying your PB&Js for lunch every day?
Oh my gosh, right? I mean, let me just tell you. Yes, while my kids order Uber Eats every day, the biggest mistake that people can make is giving their kids access to Amazon and Uber Eats.
Don't do it, folks. Oh my goodness.
It's a bad habit.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, and then they're going to graduate and think that money grows on trees for Uber Eats every day.
Yeah, put them on a budget. I have a friend that's very, very wealthy that puts his kids on budgets at a young age, and he creates financial responsibility for them at a young age. I wish I would have done that. I probably made a mistake in that regard as a parent. My kids played sports all the time. They were training, they were working hard, so I rewarded them based on achievements in school and so forth. If I were to kind of do it over again, I would probably try to set better budgets for them to get them, ready early. Because I have one that's about to graduate college here in the next year. And I hope he doesn't think he's moving in with me, because that is not happening. I am an empty nester, and I'm loving it.
He's got to fly.
I'm loving it right now. It's time for him to get out.
Okay, one more quick example, one more scenario. Let's talk about maybe somebody who is an early retiree. They're still kind of getting their feet under them after they've left the workforce, but they are getting Social Security. Let's say they are claiming Social Security. Maybe they have tons of money in a traditional retirement account that they're starting to draw on, and a house paid for, but maybe not a ton of other assets. What's their money move this year?
I think their money move, so if they're taking Social Security, they're at least 62 years old. So once you hit 59 and a half, you have a lot of choices now when it comes to your retirement plans, okay? One of them is you can start taking advantage of things that I mentioned earlier, like a Roth conversion, okay? You can convert your IRAs to Roth early. Now, the reason you would do that is taxes are on sale right now for the middle class. If you put all the politics aside, forget about what you think about the big, beautiful bill. Taxes are on sale dramatically right now for the people that are in the 22 to 24% bracket. That's the middle class. And even though it's technically permanent, we believe that we have about 4.5 years that that we know for sure that the big, beautiful bill will last. Taxes are on sale. Take advantage. You may want to convert your IRAs that you talked about or 401ks into a Roth. Pay the taxes now while they're low. And here's why. Every time you want to take a distribution from your money, you now realize it's not just the tax you pay on that, it's how it affects your Social Security, your Medicare. There's a penalty called IRMA. When your income goes too high, you now pay Medicare penalties. And what ends up happening is people die with all this money in their 401ks, IRAs. They die with all this money, never getting to enjoy it, never taking those vacations. Because if you have to make a tax calculation every time you take a distribution, you end up never using it.
You just stop enjoying life.
Yeah. And so what the heck is that? What was the point of working so hard? I would just say this. The biggest mistake that people make at that age is they never had a tax plan. But it's not too late. We have a lot of clients that are, between 59 and a half and 70 years old that are still doing Roth conversions to pay the taxes now so that they can enjoy a tax-free retirement, or at least a tax-efficient retirement down the road.
You've given us a lot of good things to think about in the new year. Any last words that we need to leave people with, simple strategies to make this year a really good one with the money?
Yes. Be invested at the right risk level for you. Stop worrying about what your friends are doing, your drinking buddies, your country club friends, or your friends at work. Stop listening to the people at the water cooler. Invest at the risk level you're comfortable with. Everybody knows you're supposed to buy low and sell high. Most people do the opposite. They invest too risky. market tanks, they get scared, they sell when it's low, like we saw this year or last year during the tariff issue in April. People got scared. They sold out and they missed one of the biggest rebounds in market history. So be invested and stay invested at the right risk level for you, and have a tax plan.
Love it. Stewart, if people want to find you on social media or online, give us all the good information where we can get you.
Yeah, just go to assetpreservation.com. And if you go to assetpreservation.com, we have offices all over the valley, 5 offices around, so somewhere close. If you want help, we are here to help you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us on the On Your Side podcast.
Thanks for having me.
The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton. And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can. Send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile news app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock, and every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.